Section 4-3 is vertical and horizontal translations. So from previous lessons, we had learned some things about amplitude and period. So remember that when they have a coefficient in front of the sine or the cosine, that's our amplitude. So our amplitude is A. And our period is 2 pi over B. Well, notice now how we're adding C. So we get what's called a phase shift, and a phase shift is negative C over B. And then something that we get is called the endpoint. Remember, we're graphing 5 points. So I'm going to take my period plus my phase shift. And that's where I get my endpoint. Okay, so let's try some. So, number 1 there says graph y equals sine of x plus pi over 2. Okay, so my amplitude, remember, if there's no number out front, we assume him to be a 1. My period is 2 pi over b, so 2 pi over 1, so just 2 pi. Phase shift is negative c, which is negative pi over 2 over b, which is 1. So negative pi over 2. And now my endpoint, I'm going to add those two guys together. 2 pi plus a negative pi over 2. Or that would be common denominator, 4 pi over 2 minus a pi over 2, so 3 pi over 2. Okay, so let's graph this guy. All right, we're going to add in my vertical axis. My amplitude's 1, so I'm going to get a negative 1 and a positive 1. My phase shift, so instead of this guy being at 0, he now starts at negative pi over 2. And he ends at 3 pi over 2. Okay, well then it means I'm going to find 2 in the middle, or 1 in the middle and then 1 in each middle of that. Okay. So I'm going to take these two guys and I'm going to add them together. Notice they have the same denominator, so that makes it a little easier. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2. Cut it in half, so that's 1 pi over 2. Negative pi over 2 plus pi over 2 gives me 0. Cut it in half, I still get 0. 1 pi over 2 plus 3 pi over 2 is 4 pi over 2, which is 2 pi. Cut that in half, it's just pi. So there's my 5 points. Negative pi over 2, 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2. All right, now we're graphing sine, so remember that sine starts at 0, up, 0, down, 0. So remember to give him some tails, because he doesn't stop, and some arrows. And there you've graphed sine with a negative pi over 2 phase shift. And remember we've talked about graphing before. If it has a plus sign here, it kind of does the opposite of what you think, right? If that's a plus with my x, he's going to move to the left. So this guy, I have a minus with my x, so he's going to move to the right. All right, so same thing. Amplitude is A, so that's 1. Period, 2 pi over b is 2 pi. So that's this distance. That's period. That's 2 pi right there. Same thing on this one. Phase shift. Now it's negative c over b, so this guy would be a negative pi over 2, so he's positive pi over 2 over 1. So 2 pi plus pi over 2. So again, 4 pi over 2 plus another pi over 2 is 5 pi over 2. Negative 1, 1. Phase shift goes first, endpoint goes last. 1 pi over 1 plus 5 is 6. Cut it in half is 3 pi over 2. 1 plus 3 is 4. Cut it in half is 2 pi over 2, which then reduces to just pi. 3 plus 5 is 8. Cut it in half is 4. 4 pi over 2 is 2 pi. So I've got pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi, 5 pi over 2. And again, sine starts at 0, up, 0, down, 0. Then some tails and some arrows, and he looks like that. All right, well, these notes, there's 12 of them. And it's sort of doing the same thing. So let's skip down here a little bit and maybe go do something like number 5. Okay, this guy's got a different amplitude, right? So number 5 here, my amplitude is 2. My phase shift, okay, negative c over b. Remember, this guy's a, b, c. Negative pi over 3. Period, 2 pi over b, so 2 pi over 3. So 2 pi over 3 plus a negative pi over 3 gives me positive pi over 3. 2, negative 2, phase shift, this is negative pi over 3. This is positive pi over 3. Well, halfway in the middle. Add them together, you get 0. Halfway in the middle of that, negative pi over 6. Halfway in the middle of that, positive pi over 6. This guy's now cosine, so remember cosine starts at the top. 0, bottom, 0, top. Give him some tails, he's going back down. Ooh, let's try number 6. All right, number 6. All right, there's A, there's B, there's C. Remember, amplitude is always positive. He's an absolute value, so amplitude's going to be 2 here, even though it's a negative 2. My period, 2 pi over 3, so 2 pi over B. Phase shift, negative c over b. This guy then would be pi over 3, just like the last one. Amplitude still 2. Negative pi over 3. Positive pi over 3. Halfway in the middle is 0. Halfway in the middle is negative pi over 6. And positive pi over 6. And move this guy down a little bit. Because this one's negative, it reflects over the x-axis. So this guy's going to start down, 0, up, 0, down. So he's going to be graphed like this. Alrighty. Let's turn the page and just see what the ones look like on the next page. See if we're going to add anything else. Let's go ahead and do 7. All right, so here's A, here's B, here's C. All right, so my amplitude is 4. My period is 2 pi over B, or just pi. And those guys cancel. Phase shift is negative C, so a positive pi over 3 over 2, which means pi over 3 times copy dot flip multiplied by the reciprocal, so my phase shift is positive pi over 6. So pi plus pi over 6, well that's 6 pi over 6, so 7 pi over 6. 4 and negative 4. End point is over here, 7 pi over 6 and pi over 6. 7 plus 1 is 8. Cut it in half. That's 4 pi over 6, which reduces to 2 pi over 3. 4 plus 1 is 5. I can't cut 5 in half, so I'm going to double the denominator. 5 pi over 12. 4 plus 7 is 11. I can't cut 11 in a half nicely, so it's 11 pi, double the denominator, over 12. So pi over 6, 5 pi over 12, 2 pi over 3, 11 pi over 12, 7 pi over 6. He's sine, he's positive, so I'm going to start at 0, up, 0, down, 0. All right. Again, lots of those are just the same, so let's go look at 10. Notice how there's a number out front now with 10. So 10's got what we call a vertical translation. Okay, so this guy's going to take my whole graph, and instead of being centered on the x-axis, he's now going to have a vertical translation. And these guys do what you think. Okay, so this guy's going to go down 3. So when I graph it, this is now negative 3. Okay, my amplitude, this is A, this is B. We don't have a C right now, so there's no phase shift. So my end point is the same as my period. Okay, so my amplitude is 2. So negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Negative 3 minus 2 more is negative 5. No phase shift, so I'm starting at 0. Period is 2 pi over b, that's pi. Pi's are going to cancel, so my period is 2, so my end point is 2. Half of 2 is 1. Half of 1 is a half. 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves. I'm graphing sine, so I'm going to start at 0, up, 0, down, 0. So when you have a vertical translation, the numbers on your y-axis are the only thing that change. Okay, let's just do one more. 3 plus 5 sine of pi x plus pi over 4. Okay, so here's my amplitude. This guy's got both. An amplitude and a phase shift and a vertical translations. It's got everything. So my amplitude is 5. My period is 2 pi over 2. Oops, sorry, 2 pi over pi. So 2. Phase shift is negative c. Over here. Over pi. So negative pi over 4 times 1 over pi. So negative 1/4. 2 plus negative 1/4. That's 8/4 minus 1/4, so 7/4. My vertical translation is up 3. Okay, so that guy's 3. Amplitude is 5. 3 plus 5 is 8. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Phase shift is negative 1/4. End point is 7/4. Negative 1 plus 7 is 6. Cut it in half. That's 3/4. Negative 3 plus 1 is 2. Cut it in half. That's positive 1/4. 3 plus 7 is 10. Cut that in half. That's 5/4. Positive sign. 0, up, 0, down, 0. That's pretty much graphing phase shifts, vertical translations, endpoints. Phase shift is your horizontal translation.